In 2005, scientists successfully sequenced the chimp genome for the first time. Darwin and other evolutionary biologists had long postulated that the great African apes are our closest relatives, but it wasn't until we had the ability to compare sequences of DNA that this assertion became more concrete. We now know that chimpanzees share almost 99% of our DNA, positioning them as our closest relatives. Through a combination of genetic analysis, fossil evidence, and other techniques we'll explore in this video, scientists estimate that chimps and humans shared our last common ancestor somewhere between 4 to 7 million years ago. From this point, the primate family tree can be traced back over 65 million years. While all of the primates that exist today are themselves evolved versions of their ancestors and not animals that we evolved from directly, by comparing the species separated by each of these evolutionary divergences, it is still possible to explore the adaptations made over millions of years to reach the mostly intelligent primates we are today. But first, let's talk about dinosaurs. Through the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods, dinosaurs ruled the world for 165 million years before going extinct around 65 million years ago. It is at this point the first primates arose. The ancestors of primates are thought to be small terrestrial mammals who adapted to life in the trees to feast on the increasing supply of fruit and insects. Tree shrews, a close relative to primates, are often used as an example of what these early primates, known as plesiadapiforms, are thought to have looked like. From here, we evolved into arboreal specialists, developing a wide range of adaptations for life in the trees before eventually returning to the ground. In a similar fashion to the evolution of primates, I'd like to tell you a quick story about the evolution of internet security and today's sponsor, NordVPN, who you can check out using the link in the description. The evolution of VPNs dates back to the late 1990s, when their most primitive forms were mainly used by businesses. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and as cybercrime increased, so did the need for the general public to keep their connections private. NordVPN was established not long after and has quickly evolved into one of the most advanced and reliable solutions on the market. In addition to having one of the largest networks of servers, their newest feature, Threat Protection, keeps you secure from malware, ads, and trackers, even when you're not connected to the VPN. If you need a VPN or any of these reasons appeal to you and you'd like to support the channel, you can try NordVPN risk-free for 30 days by heading to nordvpn.com/textbooktravel. Thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Although the majority of species alive today can be found in the world's equatorial regions, Eocene fossil sites position the early, now extinct species at a more northerly latitude. It is worth noting that the theory of plate tectonics suggests that the world was a very different place 65 million years ago, prior to North America's migration away from Eurasia and the collision of the Indian subcontinent, which created the Himalayas. The most primitive extant primates are a paraphyletic group known as prosimians, which includes lorises and lemurs on one side and tarsiers on the other, whose ancestors split off to become higher primates or simians, including monkeys, apes, and humans. One of the first characteristics that separate even the most primitive of primates is an increase in the dexterity and sensitivity of the hands, and the introduction of nails in place of claws, allowing them to grip and manipulate objects. The first split in the order Primates likely occurred early on, just over 60 million years ago, leaving the members on either side with several common characteristics. Lorises and lemurs, known as strepsirrhines, have wet noses, facilitating an excellent sense of smell, while other primates, known as haplorhines, have dry noses and rely more heavily on other senses such as sight. After exploring mainland Africa for a few million years, the ancestors of modern-day lemurs arrived in Madagascar, where they evolved separately from other primates after migrating across the Mozambique Channel on a large mat of vegetation. This concept is known as oceanic dispersal, whereby terrestrial organisms are transferred across the ocean from one landmass to another. It is prudent to consider this now in a more realistic setting before we discuss the hypothesis of how New World monkeys reached the Americas. Madagascar is the fourth largest island in the world and is home to a staggering number of endemic species. Collectively, the 5 families of lemur contain over 100 species, including some of the most beautiful primates. One of the 5 families contains various species of dwarf and mouse lemurs, and includes the smallest of all primates, Madame Bertha's mouse lemur, which weighs around 30 grams. All prosimians have nails on most of their digits, but exhibit grooming claws on some of their toes. In addition, lorises and lemurs have incisors that extend forward, creating a tooth cone, which is also used for grooming. This is also present in close relatives such as tree shrews and colugos, but not in tarsiers or any other haplorhine. While lemurs are found on the island of Madagascar, the other strepsirrhines have a much wider range, being found throughout Africa and Southeast Asia. They are separated into 2 families that differ by locomotion. The members of Losauridae are methodical climbers, whereas those in Gelacidae are more agile and are known to jump. Lorisoids, like all primates, have forward-facing eyes. The ability to combine information from both eyes is known as binocular vision and facilitates better depth perception. There are various hypotheses for why primates have forward-facing eyes. For those who spend most or all of their time in the trees, depth perception is vital for survival in this environment. Predatory animals also have forward-facing eyes, as it makes targeting and catching their prey much easier. Prey animals, on the other hand, such as zebras, or squirrels for that matter, which are arboreal, have eyes on the side of their face. This gives them a much wider range of vision to spot predators, but they compromise on the precision of their eyesight. It is likely a combination of our ancestors' arboreal lifestyle and insectivorous diet that led to our forward-facing eyes. Another interesting difference between strepsirrhines and haplorhines is the anatomy of the skull. In lemurs and lorisoids, the eye sockets are not fully enclosed. Rather, their eyes are supported by a postorbital bar. In tarsiers and all other haplorhines, there is less reliance on smell and a stronger reliance on vision, leading to fully enclosed eye sockets. The fossil record indicates that tarsiform primates once roamed North America, Europe, North Africa and Asia, but the 13 extant species that remain are all located in Southeast Asia. They are named so for their unusually large ankle bones known as tarsals, and are the only entirely carnivorous primate, preying on insects and larger animals such as snakes and lizards. The next split in the primate family tree occurred between 60 to 40 million years ago, and is arguably one of the most interesting, separating prosimians from higher primates or simians. In a similar fashion to how lemurs reached Madagascar, it is thought that some of the early anthropoid monkeys migrated across the Atlantic on a large mat of vegetation, either in one stretch or in multiple hops if sea levels were low enough to create islands or land bridges. Admittedly, this theory can seem a little far-fetched, so let's explore fossils, how they're dated and why this evidence leads to the current hypothesis. Fossils are the remains of organisms that have been preserved in layers of rock. When an animal dies, the soft parts of the body decompose, leaving behind the hard parts such as the skeleton. Layers of sediment build up on top of the skeleton and eventually compact and turn into rock. These bones are then dissolved by water seeping through the rock, and the minerals in the water fill the space the bones once occupied, creating fossils. There are a few different ways that scientists calculate the age of fossils, one of which is dating the surrounding rock using an absolute dating technique known as radiometric dating. Volcanic layers contain radioactive isotopes that have a known half-life. By measuring the breakdown of these isotopes, scientists can calculate the age of certain layers and thus the approximate age of fossils contained in the rock. They are then able to determine where and when extinct species of animals lived, and by studying their morphology, how they're related. This is known as the fossil record. All of this to say, even with the significantly older primate fossils found in 2015, there is no evidence to suggest that primates were present in South America earlier than 32 million years ago. On top of this, fossil evidence suggests that the continents of North and South America were not connected until around 2.7 million years ago, and so there was no land route for the early primates to reach South America. It is therefore hypothesized that the ancestors of New World monkeys crossed the Atlantic Ocean, the distance of which would have been significantly shorter 30 to 40 million years ago, on a floating mat of vegetation. There are 5 families of New World monkeys, almost all of which are exclusively arboreal, living in the tropical rainforests of Central and South America. Callitrichidae contains marmosets and tamarins, which are the smallest of the monkeys and are also thought to be the most primitive. Their thumbs are not opposable, nor are their tails prehensile, and with the exception of the big toe on each hind foot, they possess claws on all digits, allowing them to grip tree trunks with their tiny hands. Cebidae contains capuchins and squirrel monkeys. Iotidae contains the only truly nocturnal monkeys, known as the night monkeys. Pithecidae contains titis, sakis, and wukaris. And Atelidae contains woolly, howler, and spider monkeys, which are particularly unique, exhibiting only 4 fingers and strong prehensile tails. This is one trait that no Old World monkey possesses. In fact, macaques exhibit almost no tail at all. There are several additional characteristics that separate these two groups. New World monkeys are typically smaller. Even the largest howler monkeys, which usually average no more than 25 pounds, are dwarfed by mandrills, the largest of the Old World monkeys, which usually average no more than 55 pounds, but have been recorded at almost 120 pounds. Perhaps the most interesting difference is the structure of their noses. New World monkeys have a wide septum and outward-facing nostrils, whereas Old World monkeys, lesser and greater apes and humans, referred to as catarrhines, have a narrow septum and downward-facing nostrils. Dental structure is another area that separates monkeys in the New World from those in the Old, and is worth exploring quickly as all catarrhines, including humans, share the same dental structure. Mammals have 4 types of teeth. Incisors sit in the front of the mouth and are used to cut, bite, nibble, and strip. Canines, which are particularly prominent in male Old World monkeys and apes, are used to grab, pierce, and tear. Premolars and molars sit behind the canines and are used to grind and crush, with premolars also being used to slice. In New World monkeys, the dental formula for each quadrant is 2 incisors, 1 canine, 3 premolars, and either 2 or 3 molars, whereas catarrhines have 2 incisors, 1 canine, 2 premolars, and 3 molars. Old World monkeys are found throughout Africa and into Asia, with populations as far north as Japan and Gibraltar. Although many of these monkeys are arboreal, there is generally more time spent on the ground in the Old World, and thus less of a need for a prehensile tail. The types of ecosystems inhabited by Old World monkeys are also more diverse, with species such as the baboon roaming the tropical grasslands of Africa. Many of these primates also exhibit callous sitting pads, known as ischial callocytes. These monkeys are all contained in one family, which is split into 2 subfamilies. The members of Colobinae are referred to as leaf-eating monkeys and include the colobus monkeys of Africa, the langurs of Asia, and a group known as the odd-nosed monkeys like the proboscis monkey, which are also present in Asia. On the other side of the family, all of the species are found in sub-Saharan Africa, with the exception of macaques, which are found in Asia, and a small population in North Africa and Gibraltar, and the Hamadryas baboon, which is found in East Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. In addition to baboons and macaques, the most well-known of these primates include the mandrill, 7 species of vervet monkey, and gunons, which can be quite colourful. The last major group of primates to evolve are thought to have split from Old World monkeys around 25 million years ago, and can be split further into 2 groups, lesser apes or gibbons, and great apes, which are all included in the same family as humans, Hominidae. Although they are arguably the most fascinating, if we remove humans, apes make up the smallest group of primates. There are just 20 species of gibbon and 3 species of orangutan found in Southeast Asia, and 2 species of gorilla, 1 species of chimpanzee, and 1 species of bonobo found in Central Africa. There are several physical characteristics that separate apes from monkeys. Although all apes possess a coccyx, we lack the presence of an external tail. Apes are also much larger than monkeys and have broader, more shallow chests. Lesser apes or gibbons are the primates arguably best suited to an arboreal lifestyle, with long arms and flexible shoulder joints that facilitate brachiation, a particularly efficient method of arboreal locomotion. However, we see a gradual progression back to shorter arms as apes adapted to a terrestrial lifestyle, with chimpanzees exhibiting the most similar bodies to humans. As we discussed at the beginning, it's not just these morphological similarities that position chimps as our closest relatives. Genome sequencing has now been completed on at least one species of each of these apes, and has helped us better assess how closely related we are to each species. But what exactly is genome sequencing and how does it work? Let's start with cells. A cell is the basic unit of life. Cells combined together make tissues, and tissues combined together make organs. Each cell is controlled by a nucleus which contains 46 chromosomes grouped into 23 pairs. Each chromosome neatly packages a long molecule of DNA. Specific sections of DNA are referred to as genes and provide each cell with instructions on how to function and thus how to develop and maintain our bodies. Genes are hereditary and are passed on from our parents, who in turn got their genes from their parents. This is why we look similar to our relatives. We can measure how genetically similar we are to other people or other animals thanks to the structure of DNA. You've probably seen the elaborate animations of the shape of DNA, which looks similar to a coiled ladder. To understand genome sequencing, the most important part of this structure is the pairs of bases that make up each rung of the ladder. There are 4 possible combinations: AT, TA, GC, and CG. Human DNA contains 3 billion base pairs, the vast majority of which are in exactly the same sequence. We all have 5 fingers on each hand with nails, and the structure of our skeleton is more or less proportioned in the exact same way, etc. However, it is the small difference in these sequences that give us our eye color, our height, and other physical characteristics passed down from our relatives. A genome is the complete set of our genetic code, the sequence of all 3 billion base pairs. Once this sequence has been analysed and recorded, we can compare genomes to see how genetically similar we are to other organisms. It is because of this scientific breakthrough that we are able to more accurately understand the evolution of primates. All humans share around 99.9% of each other's DNA. Chimps are the most similar species with almost 99% similarity. Gorillas are a close second with 98%, orangutans third with 97%, and gibbons bringing up the rear with 96%. These are your closest relatives. Thank you so much for watching. This video is the first in a 5-part series exploring every corner of the primate order. In the meantime, click here if you'd like to learn more about the group structure of gorillas in Virunga National Park.